Welcome to A Bit of Insight, where we explore how to live well, travel far, and inspire others along the way. I'm your host, Lisa Mosbey, and if you're ready to design a life you don't need a vacation from, you're in the right place. What if your overwhelm is not a character flaw, a lack of discipline, or a sign that you're falling apart? What if your body is simply trying to get your attention? Today, we're talking about the language of the nervous system, how stress and burnout show up in the body, what it means to feel dysregulated, and how simple somatic resets can help us come back to a grounded center. We'll also be exploring how travel, nature, beauty, movement, and stepping outside our normal routine can give the nervous system a chance to breathe again. Welcome back to A Bit of Insight. I'm Lisa Mosbey. We're here to explore how to live well, travel far, and inspire others along the way. And today's conversation is about something many of us feel, but don't always know how to name, and that's the word overwhelm. My guest is Britteny Holm, and she's an intuitive somatic guide, the founder of Navigating Life. Britteny specializes in nervous system regulation and helping people break free from the cycle of chronic stress and burnout. Folks, what I appreciate about her work is that she does not simply teach people how to manage stress as if we were supposed to carry it forever. She helps people understand how the body stores stress and how movement, breath, and body awareness can help us release what we've been holding on to. Today, we're talking about how your body communicates, what overwhelm is trying to tell us, and how we can begin to feel safe, centered, and present in our own lives again. Britteny, welcome, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, Lisa. Thanks.
When did I cover it all? Did I get it? Do we have everything that you do in that introduction, or is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I think that was great. I just want to help people learn how to understand themselves and see when their body's getting to that overwhelm point so that they can calm it down before we get to the too much. I think you covered it great.
So, what are common signs that someone is living in chronic stress or overwhelm?
A lot of body pain. We'll feel like sore joints, just tension in our chest. A lot of times we'll just be spinning in brain thoughts, just overwhelmed with thoughts, but not being able to like hone in on a thought. So just having that wheel constantly running in our heads takes us, we're just in overwhelm because we can't like rein it in. Um,
Sure. And then what do people dismiss as normal? I think, oh gosh, I'm so fatigued all the time, but this is aging, or oh, I have chronic neck pain and neck stress. Oh, it's just because I sit a lot for work. Some of these things we use excuses for, but yet
yes.
they're stress related, and there are modalities that you have that can help alleviate that stress. But how do you notice that people are dismissing things as normal?
When they dismiss things as normal, it's a lot of times, like you said, I'm just aging, so my body's getting sore with aging. I used to think that I had low back pain. I have degenerative discs in my low back, so that's what my pain is from. And yes, some pain is from the physical side effects, but once I started doing somatic work and letting my body release all the years of stored tension that I had, that back pain went down to like 25% of what it used to be. So when we have things like that, and then we're piling stress on top of it, it just tightens all of your muscles and it doesn't let the nervous system send that communication through the body. And so that is something that we'll notice. And the more that you get pain, the more that you'll kind of snap, have kind of a shorter fuse with people. Moms will do that a lot with, everything happening overwhelming at home. You'll snap more. So this the kind of different things like that you'll notice someone doing. That's just stress building up because we're not letting it process out.
Sure. And I know so many people online talk about stress. We have a lot of medical professionals who are always talking about managing stress. But really, do they give us tools and techniques? And sometimes when they're talking about stress, it's not necessarily related to the nervous system, it's related to your environment or how you're living your life. But when you
Mhm.
talk about resetting the nervous system to relieve stress, it's different. And can you tell me what that difference is?
Yes. So we store stress in the body. We release little chemicals anytime we have an emotion. So whether that's sadness, grief, anger, anxiety, we release a chemical and it'll sit in our nervous system. And if we're not allowing it to like process out our body to finish that vibration, it'll sit there for up to like 72 years, which is crazy to me. So we can really hold on to our stress for a long time. And so if we give our body that outlet, because the stress is just like energy that needs to be released. And so if we give it a way to release, then we don't have to manage it anymore because we're not carrying it. Like you said at the intro, we don't need to carry our stress in a backpack with us at all times, and it just keeps getting heavier and heavier and heavier throughout life. We can process it out with different tools to help let that stress go and just be in the present moment with what current stressors we have to deal with, not all the stuff that can go away.
And I know many women, caregivers, myself included, when I was caring for my folks, entrepreneurs, people who are leaders in executive positions, even, moms, it doesn't matter what walk of life you're in. We carry stress somewhere. And why can that become dangerous over time? It's not just a matter of carrying it and having physical pain. There are other factors that come into play, and there's a danger not managing stress causes. What would that be?
So the dangers for not learning how to manage and process your stress would be that it just keeps compiling up. It can turn into a lot of autoimmune diseases.
Yeah.
I'm going to use a personal example. For me, I have been diagnosed with functional neurological disorder. And so I had a tic disorder as part of that diagnosis. And I couldn't drive, I couldn't work, I couldn't, I just felt helpless and non-functional. And then learning to let my body process all the tension that I had held up from different traumas in my life and to let myself feel those things, it's made a huge difference in letting me take my life back. I can drive, I can work, I can do whatever I want. I don't have tics, so people aren't looking at me like, what is going on with that person?
Wow.
So it can very much change how you're able to function in life, not just painfully, but like mental health wise and all that to go with it.
Yeah. Yeah. What would you say to someone who feels ashamed that they cannot seem to handle life the way that they used to?
We all are changing all the time, and life seems to just be go, 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 do all these things, take on all of this stuff. There is nothing wrong with you because you feel like you can't handle something right now. That means we're trying to attack everything at one time, and maybe we don't need some of those things on our plate. So we need to evaluate what we actually choose to want in our life and then remove the things that are not good for us.
You know, I know our nervous system is it's often trying to protect us from something. And the word
Yes.
we chose for this episode is dealing with overwhelm. How does the nervous system protect us from overwhelm?
It can put us into fog, and kind of like that brain fog state.
Sure.
And it will kind of affect our thinking. And we don't see that as, well, how is it protecting us? Because then we're not getting the stuff done. But when our mind goes into a brain fog, we kind of just eliminate seeing all the things to kind of go with the flow. But that doesn't put us at our prime performance that we would want to be looking for. And we want to bring it back into that safety mode so that we can be present and responding to the moment instead of shut off from the moment. Because we'll just kind of start to go inside of ourselves and ignore our surroundings if we get too much stress
Yeah.
on us, too much of that overwhelm.
And I know you used somatic tools. We introduced that in the introduction as well. Can you give us a few simple somatic tools, maybe define what somatic means so that people can use them when they're feeling overwhelmed?
So somatic tools are just ways to let your body process emotions out, acknowledging where you store things in your body. I'll work with people and I'll kind of sit and ask them where they notice the tension is as they breathe. Where does it feel like the breath stops? So the most important tool we have that we can all use at any time is our breath. You can, if you are feeling like you're in the fight or flight, like your adrenaline's ready to go, you can shake a lot. That's a tool that not a lot of people think about, but take some deep breaths and just kind of let your body shake for like set a 5 minute timer or even a minute. If you have that set aside, go into the bathroom, just shake yourself out a little bit and let that energy discharge. Because what it is just your nervous system being ready for something. It's ready for that fight. It's ready to run, but we're not necessarily in a situation where we need to run. So take a minute to yourself, take a deep breath to settle yourself and then, or to come to yourself and then just shake it out and let that energy go that way. Sometimes if we're so overwhelmed, we kind of start to go into that fawn state where we want to shut down. We can bring ourselves back up by like planting our feet and really, or even your hips in your seat and really focusing on pushing down and activating those muscles and like tense and release it to kind of wake your body up, let you know that it's there, and just tell yourself either in your head or out loud, like, we're safe right now. We are not in a situation that we need to build up all of this energy, if
I
that
know
makes sense.
slow walking, getting outside in nature. Um, I annoy
Yes.
people often because I'm a hummer. You know, my dad hummed, my sister hummed, and I hummed, and we never hummed the same tune. So we drove my mother and my brother a little loco when we were in the car together because it's three different people humming, and my brother always found that he had to wear a headset and cover up his ears because he couldn't take the humming. But it was our way of, calming ourselves. We would hum,
Yes.
and humming kind of, it's a way of breathing. You're slowly breathing, you're taking deep breaths, and then you're humming and you're slowly breathing out. So even
Mhm.
subconsciously you may notice your child doing this because there's an intuitive nature with some of this stuff, and we lose sight of it as we get older. We start to clench our shoulders or clench our jaw, and we don't learn to relax and breathe into some of those things. um, let's talk about how this applies to travel because that's a big part of my world. And I talk a lot about travel for wellness because when we get to the beach, we can relax the nervous system just being, listening to the waves and sitting in the sand. From your perspective, how can travel help calm stress and overwhelm?
So traveling takes you out of that environment where you have to go, go, go. You don't, when you're at work or you're at home taking care of kids, all of that, there's the soccer practices, basketball practices, reports due at work, everything that stresses you out and puts you on alert. Where when we go and we're able to sit by the beach and we can just lay out, we can take in that sun that's wonderful for us, and we can just listen to the sounds. I love that you brought that up because a sound is a wave. So listening to the waves crashing on the shore is like sound vibrations also going through your body and bringing a sense of peace to the nervous system. So traveling into nature, like you said, going for nice walks is ways for you to just take in those natural sounds and let your body feel the peace from it so that it can start to relax. So taking that time to travel and set yourself out of all of your hustle and bustle really helps bring the nervous system back to safety.
I want to talk about that. What does it look like when the nervous system comes back into safety? Like, what types of things do we start to notice in our body?
So you'll notice that your shoulders will drop. You'll start to feel like you can move. You'll be a little more fluid instead of that tight, rigid movement that we get when we're so full of stress. You'll just have that, you'll be able to relax, to sit. You'll be able to have conversations where you don't feel like you have to have all the answers. It can just be like a nice, calm conversation. You're not going to be as short with your kids, feeling overwhelmed that you have to properly take care of everything, or is like, I don't have time for this right now because I have to do A, B, and C for your brother or sister. It's just more like, no, we're just here and we're going to chill. And it lets your body just settle into those moments. So you don't have that tension that comes out of our voice or out of our bodies.
I think in some cases it might lower our blood pressure, might help with digesting our
Yes.
food. There's all these other avenues within the body that get blocked or stifled when we're tense and tight and feeling stress when we're anxious all the time. Uh, there's a trickle down effect that happens from head to toe, maybe even getting a little bit more gray earlier than you should be. Stress is it wreaks havoc on the body. Some people think travel has to mean crossing the ocean, but I believe that even being in your hometown or playing hometown tourist can shift your energy. What do you think? How would somebody do that just in their own neighborhood or, in a town near them?
Absolutely. I like to go for walks every morning and I'll leave my phone behind or just in my pocket. I don't respond to anything. Just taking in the nature that's around us or go and looking with curiosity. Because when we're living with curiosity, when we're in that safe mode, we get to live with curiosity because we're not on alert to what could cause us harm. We can be curious. So, like, oh, look at this cute little shop that showed up. I just want to go in and explore. And it's a different part of your nervous system. Could I have you repeat part of your question if I didn't answer it just because I had a little walk in and I had to redirect? Sorry about that.
Oh, no, no worries. Oh, I was just playing with the idea of, playing hometown tourist. If your environment at work or your environment at home is tense and causing some of that stress, getting away from that. We can't always just, hop on a plane and go to the beach. It's not easy for everyone to do that. But there might be a local lake or a local river or a park that you can go to and start to just let go of some of that stress. And I'm wanting to bring that to the folks that are listening. How do we use somatic principles, nature, uh, breathing to induce that release of stress? What are some ways that folks can do that?
We can definitely, like you said, play the hometown tourist. You can go to, we live on a river here, so we can go over to the beach that's at the river instead of having to fly down to Florida and lay by the ocean. You can still take the time to watch that stream roll by, let your kids splash in it, feel that sand in your feet, all those things. Um, and I like how you had said just be the tourist in your hometown. And I've noticed lately doing that myself is just letting the curiosity be there because you can't be curious if you're not safe. And so that's
Yeah,
been like a thing I've been helping people with lately, I guess.
yeah. I like that word curious because it does help. It expands our mind. When we look at things rather than black and white, when we get curious, the other word that I use a lot is fascinated. Rather than
Oh,
frustrated, I
yeah.
like the word fascinated. When I'm feeling frustrated in a situation, just that mind shift of saying, "Oh, this could be fascinating. Why is this happening like this?" And being curious and fascination I think are part of my stress release process. If somebody was meeting with you and you were taking them through some somatic exercises, what would a visit with you look like?
Okay, so we spend about 15 minutes just chatting about where you're at in life, what you're noticing is stressing you out, different things that you feel are bothering you in life, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And then for about a half hour in the middle, we will just do a little guided meditation, a little tap into your body. So I have you take some deep breaths. And then as you're relaxing, just notice where your breath gets stuck. And then we'll do somatic tools in those places. I had someone recently who felt a lot of tension in her shoulders, and I could see that she was trying to move them. And I encourage that movement. A lot of times we don't think we can move while we're taking that time to check in with ourselves. But if that's what your body's asking for, then let it shake it out or wiggle it out. Just picture that energy, that stuckness flowing, opening up. And then I will also, as we come out of that, and after we've talked about things, it's not like a super deep meditation. It's you lead it. So if you want to dive deeper in, that's up to you. But I kind of let you take it where you need to go. Another person, for example, said they felt their ears like needed to pop. And so we did some rubbing of the ears to kind of relax those muscles around there and how the vagus nerve is connected to that. So we kind of talked about that and then worked it out so that they were able to have their ear pop and felt that release of what was stored that just needed to push out at that moment. And then I'll bring you back with about 15 minutes left of the session just to make sure you feel good and are ready to step away if there's any other tools or conversation we want to talk about so that you are ready for life. And if something like that comes up going forward, my goal is to give you tools you can take at any moment in between us seeing each other that you can regulate yourself again without having to, well, I need to have another appointment so I can regulate. The goal is for you to know how to regulate. We just
Yeah.
teach little bits at a time as your body needs them. Because if we hand you this huge manual, that's just overwhelming. Where if it's, this is what you need, this is what we're going to do. So that's kind of what I do in my one-on-ones.
Sure. Assessing where somebody's at and where they can slightly shift and move into a more calm, peaceful state. So, what does it look like to build a life where your nervous system feels supported on a regular basis? What would that look like for someone?
Um, you're going to have where you take time for yourself. So, because we can't regulate if we don't acknowledge that we need regulation. And for example, I know a lot of me and people I work with will take time to start our day. Like, let's bring it in. Let's listen to what our body's trying to say right away in the morning. Go for a walk, drink your coffee or tea consciously, like being aware of the warm liquid going down to just kind of help bring you into the moment. And then as you go through your day, if you notice that you're starting to amp up, you have those tools of, okay, I feel that my chest feels like there's 1,000 butterflies inside of it. So I'm just going to put my hands on my chest and take a deep breath and remind myself that I'm safe right now and let it go and do that as many times as I need to and then get back at it. So you just start to speak your body's language. If you get ringing in your ear when stress is starting to happen, you can notice, okay, my ear is starting to ring. So that means I need to rein it in a little bit, tap into myself, breathe, and let that process. And you're just more aware of those shifts within yourself as you learn to regulate your nervous system.
And Brittany, how do like boundaries, rest and
Mhm.
movement, both of them, and then self-awareness, how do those all work together for us?
So boundaries are good because we need to keep our, how do I want to word this? We want to be safe. And so if we don't put those boundaries for other people coming into what our safety net is, then we have that much more anxiety within ourselves, whether we are aware of it or not. Our nervous system is just on alert to it. And so having the boundaries that you communicate in a loving way with others, and then the self-awareness to see when, okay, they're coming too far into this, then we need to speak up because they can't redirect it or even have a chance to redirect it if we don't let them know, hey, this is coming too far. It's making me feel this way. So can we redirect it this way? We can have those conversations with people. And then you said three things: boundaries, self-awareness. What's the one I'm missing?
Rest, movement.
Rest and movement. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those all will just kind of help. The rest helps your body reset. So it's very important to give yourself time to rest because if we don't give ourselves time to rest, then we get to that exhaustion wheel and it's just like we can't keep going. Kind of like when you need to ground and feel yourself because you're getting just done. And then movement is great for waking you up and helping things flow. When you add that into your life every day, some sort of movement, it gets that energy moving so that you're opening your nervous system and ready to let those emotions go through their system instead of getting stuck where we don't need them.
Yeah, it makes me think that sometimes when we're in the same rooms with the same routines, same responsibilities, same stress patterns. Our bodies just keep replaying the same signals over and over, and we don't listen. And when I say we, I'm talking about myself. I notice this is how it has shown up for me. And I guess that's why I'm so prone to getting in nature. I bought an e-bike. I get out and bike. I get out and walk pretty much every day. Not, I don't mean just, walk into the grocery store. I mean intentionally walking in nature, listening to the birds. I put an app on my phone called Merlin, and it's a free app. And I play it when I'm outside and I'm hearing a lot of birds, and I'll see, 5 or 10 or 15 different varieties of birds. All of those things help me to reduce the stress. And then I think too, managing caffeine, and there's certain foods that I find more nurturing, like green drinks are a big thing for me. I know a lot of people don't like them. It's like drinking grass or, like weeds. But I find those green drinks that give me energy and are really nurturing all help to soothe and calm my nervous system. So what are some tips and tricks that you might have for folks that they can do at home right now to help calm their nervous system if they're feeling overwhelmed or feeling stressed?
Great. So, for a right now fix, it would be that take a breath. But I like what you mentioned. You've noticed over time that those green drinks or that going for a walk in nature and using that Merlin app to kind of help, those help bring you in. So over time, we can pay attention to, I felt in my body a certain way when I was doing this, and I didn't like how that felt in my body. So keeping track of when we get triggered and what was happening in that situation, we can start adjusting our lifestyle to fit to what calms our nervous system. So if you notice that if you like, I used to drink 4 cups of coffee a day. And that is way too much coffee, but I love coffee and it was delicious.
Yeah.
But I noticed when I have that much, I'm a little more amped up than I need to be.
Wired.
Yes. So then I've weaned myself down to a cup of coffee a day that lets me have my wake up. I just love the warm fluid. It just is soothing to me. So I can adjust. We don't have to completely eliminate everything and live this perfect, healthy lifestyle because that, if we take that too far, is going to put more stress on us than just making little adjustments and noticing this triggers me to a mental state I don't really like or a pain state that I don't really like. So I'm going to see how I can adapt it to relieve that stress. So you can make little changes in your diet. A lot of people will notice if they eat more sugar, they're more stressed out because we just get amped up that way with sugars. So we can lessen that down. Music is very helpful to people. And humming, I'm going to go back to your humming. If you are feeling stressed out, your vagus nerve is connected. That's like your main part of your nervous system. And that humming is actually, like you said, your kids just naturally do it. They're self-soothing without realizing that they're self-soothing because the humming vibrates from the inside out, and that just brings us into a state of calm. So if there's things that we need right now, it's that breathing, that out loud sigh, that letting the humming happen. And then over time, pay attention to what movements make you feel better. Like, do you like doing Tai Chi that wakes you up and it makes you ready to go? Or do you want to do what's that intense stuff? CrossFit. It depends on what your body likes and your body's need, because what you need is not going to be what I need. Because all of ours, there's 8 billion different ways to live a life. So you just have to start paying attention to the things that make you feel good and choosing those and experimenting, which is kind of how I stumbled into the somatic stuff, and the nervous system regulation was a stumbling in looking for help. So be curious and fascinated and look for different ways that you notice your body is responding positively with that less tension, less tightness, and just ready to be present in the moment.
I'm thinking you said a little one walked in, and I'm kind of curious, how do we promote this in our children? Like when they're self-soothing, how do we encourage it rather than to say, be quiet, don't make noise, or stop banging or tapping, because sometimes that is a way, or shaking. They do some of these behaviors and they're self-soothing. How do we
Yeah.
encourage that in our children?
So as a mom, I can acknowledge that sometimes when we're listening to the tapping, it's very overwhelming. And for my nervous system, my son making constant noises may not be helpful because I have A, B, and C to worry about and I need him to stop. But instead of stopping, I'll be like, hey, I'm really glad that you are self-regulating right now. Like, I understand. I'll explain, like, your body is having you do these things because it's trying to downshift because you have so much energy built up from sitting at school for 8 hours. But while we're doing this, because I have to focus on this, can you take it to your room and let yourself finish releasing this energy? There's nothing, just reiterating, there's nothing wrong with it. It's awesome that your body is helping you do this, but we need to consider the people around us. So if we need to separate to regulate, by all means, go do your thing and then come back and join us when you're ready to behave like on a communal level and not on a your level, if that makes sense.
It does. It does. Growing up, it was always go outside and play. I
Yeah.
remember hearing that all the time. So, and we see that a little bit less because now kids are so engrossed in digital media and technology. And I do want to ask you, how does that stuff affect the nervous system of a child? And not just them. I have to say, my phone is attached to my hand the majority of the
Mhm.
day. I live on Zoom. I have a virtual business. I am on, calls on the computer all the time. How are these things affecting the adult nervous system? And is it intensified with our youth?
Yes. So it kind of dulls you to your surroundings, to nature, to picking up that like electric vibe that our nervous system is always reading from other things. We get just honed in onto this so that it can dull down. And it also can affect like our dopamine levels. We're creating such an addiction to the screens because if the kids are scrolling TikTok or an adult is scrolling, reels or whatever, and we're just like, well, what's the next video? What's the next video? And we have to be conscious of how much time we're putting into that because it does create a sense of stress that we might not even be aware of. I try to be super self-conscious of it. Like my kids is you can have 2 hours a day, then go find something to do. I don't care if you grab something from the bookshelf or color or go run outside with your friends, just go do something other than staring at your screen because you're not exercising your brain, you're shrinking your brain. And we can't work on full speed when we're shrinking. We have to put up with it when it's our job, like there's a certain amount, but then we need to be more conscious of that time away from it, whether we're listening to the birds at the park or going for a walk, or a bike ride or whatever, just or cooking and having the phone put away and just being immersed in the sensations of making supper and putting that love into it for your family. Just be present with what you're doing and not staring at a screen while you're doing autopilot on supper, if that makes
I
sense.
like the awareness that you said it's the sense it dulls the senses. It does. And cooking actually, like if you're using onions and you walk into a house when someone's been cooking or, an Italian home when they're making fresh spaghetti sauce. Wow, like people who are cooking with garlic and onions and those strong potent senses, it does, it wafts it there's a sense of, for me, a sense of home when I think of that. I think of my grandmother's cooking or those times when my mom was cooking. I think the nervous system has a lot to do with those five senses and maybe that intuitive sense, that sixth sense of intuition and curiosity and fascination, as we've been talking about. When we tap into all those senses, when we reactivate all those senses, we're like flipping a switch. We're turning on our nervous system again. We're getting to be alive again. Any other thoughts on how folks
Yeah.
can do this, maybe as a family?
Yes. So I know for us in my household, we'll play cards together because that gets
Oh,
like the physical feeling. A lot of times to just start waking up, we need to do stuff with our hands. And I don't mean like staring at a screen and swiping, but like playing cards or
yeah.
drawing, or we'll go and work on the garden together, getting into things. Um, and even as a family, like you can to make your nervous system aware, you can pay attention when you're going for a walk. What are different things that you see? Name them out loud. What are different things that you smell? Acknowledge them because then you're connecting your brain. Yep, you're just acknowledging all those senses and bringing your nervous system to awareness. And I like how you're pulling your brain and your nervous system together, because sometimes they'll disconnect if we get too much caught up in here. We're not fully experiencing life. So taking the time to acknowledge what's around you to get that full experience of all of your senses kind of just helps wake you up and appreciate life that much more. And you can, anything that you do with your family, you can kind of just throw out those random questions
Yeah.
and bring you into that moment.
Brittany, let's review. If somebody wants to do a personal assessment, if they want to just take a look at their life and do a personal assessment, what questions might they be asking themselves? Or what kinds of behaviors or feelings or sensations should an individual be looking for?
Okay. Um, so something you should ask yourself is what is happening when I notice that my shoulders are coming up? What is happening in my surroundings that's causing my body to tense up in whatever way that you notice your body's tensing up. But for most of us, it is those shoulders, that neck, that hunching forward, because we live in a digital world. That's when we start to lean and do all those tense things. And so then just consciously taking a step to notice, okay, I'm going to let it relax. Paying attention to like your emotions, noticing how
Mhm.
you're able to respond, asking yourself, like, how do I interact with those I love around me? Is my patience short, or do I feel like I have a decent amount of being able to hold a conversation without getting annoyed or without getting short, and being aware of those things? And if they're not the answers where you want them to be, then you can know, okay, so this is the avenue I want to start working on, how that makes me feel. So if I'm being short with my kids, what's causing that? Is it because we have too full of a calendar? Is there some things I can remove? Or are these things have to do things? And should we as a family take some time to, like, hey, we're done with school, everyone just got home, let's just ground for a couple minutes, or let's shake out all of our energy so that we can be ready to be with each other instead of holding all that tension from the day. Yeah.
Beautiful. I love the reminder that we are not meant to simply manage stress forever, that we can learn to listen, pause, move, breathe, release, and come back to ourselves, I think is what you had said. And whether that reset happens through somatic practice or a walk outside or the quiet moment of breath hiding away in the bathroom just to compose yourself, all of those things can help to calm and soothe our nervous system. So I want to thank you for sharing your insights, your work, and your practical tools today. If folks want to get in touch with you, where do they find you?
So I am on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, all under Navigating Life.
Navigating
Um,
Life.
yes. And then, well, usually just like kind of reach out through messaging. That way is how I've been
Perfect.
contacting my people. So,
Excellent. And we'll have
or they've been
links to all of
contacting
those
me.
resources. Yeah, in the notes field too.
Perfect.
Well, in the notes for the video. So thank you for that. Hey, for everyone listening, take a moment today to ask yourself, what is my body trying to tell me? And then give yourself permission to listen. This has been a bit of insight with Lisa Mosbey. Until next time, live well, travel far, and keep listening for the wisdom within. We'll see you next time. Thanks for joining me on A Bit of Insight. To get more involved with our wellness community, grab a copy of my book, Live Well, Travel Far, or to explore our travel offerings, visit the website at insightcenterforwellness.com. And if today's episode gave you something to think about, leave a review and please share it with a friend. This is Lisa Mosbey reminding you to live well, travel far, and always follow your insight.